Hi guys, today we're going to be cooking our sweet potato and black bean shepherd's pie. I hope you're excited to follow along. We're going to be doing it in real time so you can cook along with me. The only thing I have prepared is washing all the vegetables and washing my hands, so please do that beforehand. First thing we're going to do is with our sweet potatoes, we're going to peel them and cut them up into small chunks. You're going to need roughly 600 grams, so weigh them out as you're going along. Just be very careful. Your knife can be very sharp, so if you do need help from an adult, that's not a problem at all. Sometimes you need a bit of strength to get through these larger ones. As you can see, I'm just doing them into small chunks. They don't need to be perfect, they don't all need to be square, because we're going to boil these. It's just the smaller they are, the quicker that they will boil. I'm actually going to use a slightly larger bowl because there's quite a lot of them. that's me all done. I hope you're all caught up too. What we're going to do is we're going to put this into a large saucepan. Fill that up with water. And put that onto a medium heat because that can boil once we're doing all the rest of the vegetables. Whilst you're over at the oven, also pop your oven on to 200 degrees. I'm going to put mine in the oven so it warms up. If you like a crispier top to your shepherd's pie, you can always pop it under the grill. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to prep our mushrooms. We don't need them just yet, but what it does mean is it saves on doing it whilst we are cooking. So we have got some button mushrooms, and what we're going to need is 150 grams just chopped up nicely. Again, if you're little, be very careful with your fingers. This can be very sharp. You can always get an adult to help you. So I'm just going to weigh these to see roughly what I've got so far. Okay, 60 grams, so I'm going to need a little bit more. Keep an eye on your sweet potatoes while they're heating up, just to make sure they don't boil over. That saves cleaning up a mess a bit later on. my mushrooms prepared. So I'm just going to pop those aside. As I said, we're going to use them a little bit later on. So the next thing we are going to do is peel our onion and chop that up. So I've got a red onion. So what you want to do is be very careful. As they're round, they do roll around a little bit. You want to take both the top and the bottom off and take all of the skin off around the top, as we are going to use the whole of the onion. Lovely. And be careful when you're peeling this, because often when you're peeling onions they do tend to make you cry. Hopefully I won't cry today. So what you want to do is try not to lean over it so you can avoid it, all of the juices going up and sort of aerating up into your eyes. So the best way to do this at the moment is to chop it straight in half, so then that stops it wobbling around on your board. We're going to want to chop these fairly fine. So I find the best way to do this is to chop in long slices, all the way down first of all. Be careful of your fingers at this point. So as you can see, we've got lots of small sections there. Then what you want to do is turn it the opposite way round and do exactly the same this way. That will give you small sections of the onion. Make sure to tuck your fingertips in so you're not taking any of those off. There we are, there's the first half of the onion done into lovely small sections. So we're going to do the same with the other half that we've done first of all. Lovely, so that's all our onion chopped. Luckily I haven't cried today. How have you guys done at home? Let me know. So what we are going to be doing is popping the onion and the garlic into the frying pan together. So before we heat up the oil and pop the onions in, I'm going to prepare the garlic ready to crush into the frying pan. So what you're going to want to do is get 2 garlic cloves, and we need to peel those. So the easiest thing is to top and bottom it, similar to the onion, and that'll allow you to peel all of that skin off there. So we have our next thing ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to the top of the oven on the hob so we can get the frying pan ready. Okay, so So I've moved over to the hob now. As you can see, we've got the sweet potatoes boiling nicely there. They're still going to need a little bit longer because we need to wait until they're nice and soft. So we're going to get started on frying our onions. So the first thing you want to do is pop your hob on. Just on a medium flame. So what we're going to do is soften our onions. Pop in a little bit of olive oil or any type of oil you've got around the house. We're going to let that warm up. This is a good time to check your potatoes so far. Do that just by putting a knife just into them just to see if they're soft. If they're lovely and soft, you can turn them off for now, drain them and leave them aside. But if they're a little bit hard, you can just leave them a little bit longer because we're going to mash those. So as we've been doing that, our oil should be heating up nicely. So I've got our onions all chopped and ready, and we've got our 2 cloves of garlic. What you're going to need is your garlic crusher as well, nice to hand. So now what we are going to do is we're going to pour your onions first of all into the oil. Now be careful, if it gets too hot it may spit. So you want it just on a nice medium heat, warm enough that you're going to hear it sizzle, but not too hot that it's going to spit the oil at you. So be very careful at this point. Can you hear that sizzling? Lovely, so you want to just move that around so they get nice and coated in all of that oil. Break up any sections that are stuck together. Lovely, you can really smell that coming out now. So we also want to get our garlic in there, that'll give it a lot of flavour. So you want to get your crusher, pop your peeled garlic within there, and give it a nice squeeze. Add in your second one in there, do exactly the same. I like to empty it out so I get all of that garlic. Make sure you give that a nice stir because you don't want to burn that garlic. Looking lovely. So that is going to fry for 5 minutes. So while that is frying, again just on a, maybe lower it down the heat if you need to. You don't want to burn it. The reason we're leaving it for 5 minutes is because it's going to go slightly clear and it's going to go really sweet, which is lovely. So while we leave that, every now and then give it a stir. You want to move it around again so it's not burning. But what we're going to do is we're going to prepare our spring onions. So we're going to need 4 spring onions. Again, I have pre-washed these, so make sure they are clean before you do that. And you want to just slice them right down to the bulb, and then you're just going to leave that in bit. because as you'll see, that's where the roots are. I've gone right down to the bottom, just left that last little bit. Again, don't forget to stir your onions. Maybe after every spring onion you chop, give it a little stir, just so you don't forget. Lovely, that's looking nice. Okay, I'm just going to have another quick check of my sweet potatoes. They are lovely and soft. So I'm going to turn that off and I'm going to drain them at the sink. Now be very careful with this because it will be slightly heavy and the water is extremely hot. So be careful while you're carrying it over to the sink, and also while you're pouring it into the colander or the sieve, just be very careful that you don't catch your hands. Okay? So I'm back from draining the sweet potatoes. I've put them back in the pan and just left them to the side so they can cool down while we're finishing the rest of the dish. So what you're actually going to do now to your onions, so they should be looking nice and clear and smelling lovely. You need to get your paprika, and we're going to use a teaspoon of this. And we're also going to add all of our diced spring onion. What you want to do is give that a good stir to make sure that all of that nice fresh spring onion is coated in the paprika that we have just added. We're also going to add the diced mushroom that we did earlier, so we haven't got to worry about chopping that right now. Pour those all in and give that another quick stir. Again, making sure that they're lovely and coated. The next step we've got is we're going to go back over to the sink and we're going to drain both of the beans, the black beans and the kidney beans. Lovely, so we're going to pour all of these into your frying pan. And again, give those a nice stir. These are going to be in here for about 5 minutes. Lovely. So while we're waiting for that for the 5 minutes, we can prepare our sweet mashed potato. So I'm actually going to make mine vegan. So to make it nice and creamy, I'm going to be adding just a dash of almond milk. But feel free to use any milk that you've got in the cupboard, or if you'd like to add a little bit of butter to make it a bit creamier. You don't tend to need it, but it's entirely up to you. So I'm going to pop this here. We're going to add a little bit of milk or butter, and then we're going to mash it. So as you can see, it's quite smooth, it's quite silky, it doesn't take a lot to mash because we've boiled them nice and soft. So what we're also going to do while we're waiting for the last few minutes is we're going to juice our lime. So a good tip is to give it a roll before you cut it and squeeze it, because it loosens up all the insides and you get all that lovely juice. So you want to chop it in half and give it a good squeeze. make sure not to get any seeds in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to pour the lime juice in. We're also going to add our tin of chopped tomatoes. Give that a stir. And just for a little bit of sweetness, we're going to add a tablespoon of golden syrup. Now you can use maple syrup if you've got that as well. Whatever you've got that's a little bit sweet that you can get out of your cupboard. It's very sticky. You want to give that a good mix. It's looking delicious now. What you're going to do now is get an oven-proof dish, because what we're going to do is we're going to move all of this contents that's in your frying pan into the bottom of the dish, and we're going to top it with our sweet potato. Again, be very careful while you're moving this because this mixture is going to be very hot. And we want to top with our mashed sweet potato. Spread it out so you're covering the whole of the top. So I'm going to put mine in the oven because I like my top to be quite soft, but if you are putting it under the grill and you want a slightly crispier top, it's a good idea to get a fork and just score along the top. And there we are. So we're going to pop this in the oven for roughly 20 minutes and then it'll be ready. Okay, here we go. Make sure you put it onto a surface that is okay with heat and be very careful, do not touch the bowl because it's going to be really hot. But as you can see, it's all bubbling away now, the top is crisped nicely, so I'm going to dish a little bit up. Make sure you're using your oven glove while you're touching the side of the dish. And there we go, it smells lovely. It's really nice, really healthy, full of a lot of vegetables, and it'll be really warming on these winter nights. I hope you enjoy it. Please send us a picture on our Facebook group so we can see what you've made.